Hello, people of the internet, this is KaijuNoir,
And Deadpoolzilla.
and this is another installment of Kaiju's Corner, the show where Deadpoolzilla and I just talk about whatever is on our mind currently, and just spend the next couple of minutes, or however long this recording may take, just to, share our quick thoughts to you, the audience. So now, with this episode, we decided to talk about what may or may not happen, being that this is the year of Gamera's 50th anniversary, and with a movie supposedly confirmed a while back, I want to say like, I don't know, half a year maybe? It was like around the success, like I think it was either right before Godzilla 14 came out, or right afterwards.
I want to say it came out, like the news came out right before Godzilla premiere.
Mm-hmm. And so since then, there's been like absolutely no news whatsoever coming out of, this supposed new Gamera movie. And so, I decided, just like Deadpoolzilla and I just talk about like what we'd like to see in new Gamera installment, and what we predict would happen, as well as, like whether or not this movie might be even made at all.
Yeah, which, it's unlike with the Toho news, it's like, that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Toho said, yeah, we're doing it, try to stop us.
Yeah, we had actual quotes from, like, the representatives of Toho themselves. Here it's just like, yeah, we're making it.
Yay?
And funny thing is, like, with Godzilla's always been a franchise that has been kept alive in some way, shape, or form, whether or not he was actually in film, because during that large 10-year gap between Final Wars and Godzilla 2014, we still had quite a lot of merchandise, be it like the video games, the new figures, the IDW comics that started in 2011.
And that wasn't a great start.
But it's still something, something that's keeping the franchise or the property alive.
Although #fuck Kingdom of Monsters.
Now, with Gamera, it's also kind of similar, where I think in terms of merchandise, maybe the only major thing that's come out of Gamera has been the Revoltech series, as well as the recent SH Monster Arts figure, where with Revoltech we had Heisei Gals, Guardians, Gamera, Gamera 2 Gamera, Legion, old school Gamera, and old school Showa Gals. Why Revoltech never made figures of Gamera 3 monsters, I have no idea. And then, of course, there's the recent reveal, I want to say a month or 2 months back, of SH Monster Arts Gamera 2 Gamera. But outside of that, there really hasn't been anything just to, keep Gamera alive ever since Gamera the Brave bombed.
Yeah, and that may be kind of the reason why we haven't got a lot of news out of it, because everyone's I think they're more afraid of revealing This is what I like to think. They don't want to announce a lot of stuff, because I think they want to keep everything hush-hush and throw it all out there instead of share news, because I think they're still kind of reeling from the scars of Gamera the Brave.
Yeah, I mean, even back then, they would have, but that's the thing, even when Godzilla Final Wars bombed, they still kept it alive in some way, shape, or form. But then again, when it comes to, the Toho properties, or at least using Toho as an example, have they ever revealed anything about their movies in the same fashion that Hollywood tends to share a lot of information about their movies before the movie's actual release?
If you're Sony, then that plan works. In other words, it does not work. I don't know, I want to say, that's what I'm hoping for, is that they just want to hold everything back, and because we don't know the exact announcement date. You'd think we would have, we didn't get anything for Ant-Man until this year.
Yeah.
And that's coming out in 6 months.
Same thing with the Hobbit movies. They would release the trailer like the year they came out.
Yeah, exactly. And They did that with Age of Ultron, so maybe I'm hoping that that's what they're doing with Gamera here.
Mm-hmm. And even like maybe looking at some of the recent Ultraman movies, I think they would also have like they would tend to keep their movie release dates around December, around Christmas time, and they would have a trailer maybe like early on in the year. So maybe it's possible that they're going to be releasing this new Gamera movie around December, and then releasing a trailer maybe around earlier this year, or like, I mean, I don't know, sometime within the first half of 2015. But who knows? And now, given that, I'm not sure. I just want to ask: is Gamera still owned by Kadokawa Pictures?
I want to say yes. Not sure though.
Okay, because with Kadokawa, when they got the rights to Dai, I know that, I'm not sure, I'm going to check right now, because I know there was a Daimajin TV show called Daimajin Canon, but I want to know if that was made by Kadokawa themselves.
Yeah. Hey, side note about Ultraman, that was something, I got the Ultraman DVD collection set as a Christmas gift for my dad.
For your dad, or your dad gave it to you?
No, I got it for him.
Oh, okay. Did he grow up with that show?
Yeah, he grew up with the original Ultraman.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
So now we've got the whole DVD collection of that. Yeah.
Was it that Mill Creek release, or was it like Volume 1 and Volume 2?
Well, it was dubbed, so not subbed.
Oh, so it was a different release then?
Yeah, different release.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, for $10, 39 episodes for $10, I'm buying that shit.
Oh, yeah. Now, if only we can get Ultra 7, if only we can get any of, like, the Shout Factories for that much. But then again, they prefer, the, they're not really like the Mill Creek kind of company where they, give a cheap and easy sort of release. But let's see. Daimajin Canon, Kado. Yes, Daimajin Canon was a tokusatsu television drama produced by Kadokawa Pictures. Okay, so even by 2010, they still own the rights to a Dai Studios property. So I guess it's safe to say that Kadokawa, they still own the rights to Gamera. And, well, yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, Kadokawa, even though, to be honest, Gamera the Brave was the only movie I've ever seen of that studio, it does look like they have the money to produce something as big as a kaiju film. I mean, looking back, I remember with Gamera the Brave having some of the best special effects I've seen in the kaiju history. I want to say, this might sound blasphemous, but I think Gamera the Brave was probably pulled off a lot better than many of the many of the Millennium Godzilla films.
This is the point where I'd be jumping through the computer to kill you, Andreas.
I mean, if you think about it, let's put the story in Gamera's Toto whatever's design, put it off. Just looking at it from a technical standpoint or technical points, it feels like with Gamera the Brave, it did feel, I don't know, something about with the Godzilla, with the Millennium Godzilla movies. I remember you yourself said so in your recent one of your recent videos, where you mentioned how there were several shots that just don't make the suits look like suits, because it's a kind of, I've noticed a lot of, now looking back at it, I know there were a lot of shots in the Millennium series where it's like they don't really try to aim the camera at any sort of big low, like any sort of low angle. It's just like very flat, straight on, like that's Godzilla right there in the middle of the screen of the screen. But I think they really knew how, in Gamera the Brave, really knew how to position the cameras and how to blend in the live action, how to composite the shots of the suits and the live action footage together. But and of course, the suits themselves were really well done.
Okay, I'll give you that. For a second there, I was like, "You're a dead man."
He's like, I like to quote Charlie Sheen. To quote Charlie Sheen, bring it.
But no, I see where you're coming from on that. The thing with... you know what I just thought of, Andreas?
What?
Toho has some money on Gamera. Remember, they have some partial rights to Gamera?
Would you be referring to the Heisei films that they distributed?
Yeah, and they own Gamera's Roar.
Yeah. That's pretty annoying of Gamera the Brave to not have that roar.
I mean, you couldn't...
Like throughout I think it was either like Bowser's roar from Super Smash Bros. Melee, and then King Kong's roar.
Well, that's the thing. Like, maybe Toho's kind of slowing them down because they want to get the roar. Because let's face it, Gamera's roar is iconic.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what's slowing them down, or I don't know. Like maybe they have to get help from Toho because Kadokawa, they obviously do have money, but they don't have Toho money.
Jeez. Now I was thinking about thinking back to the Millennium series. They really, Toho was trying. They kind of have this really nasty habit of trying to put like a Godzilla movie every single year, and the quality of each film would vary. Like the quality would vary from film to film due to that rushed production schedule, and I'm really hoping that sort of thing won't happen with Gamera. I mean, yes, it's just one movie, but considering we haven't heard any news whatsoever, I hope they don't start the film like now and then hopefully release it by the end of the year.
There's a part of me that says that's probably going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess that happens with Ultraman, and I guess they turned out okay-ish for the most part in terms of special effects. I mean, have you seen any of the recent Ultraman stuff, like Ultra Galaxy Legend, Ultraman the movie, 6 Ultra Brothers, or whatever?
It's like on my to-do list of kaiju stuff.
Well, if you ever watch any Ultraman movie, I recommend the Super 8 Ultra Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably like the best one in terms of story, as opposed to just like, here's an excuse to get everybody together and fight monsters. I mean, that's the case with the Super 8 Ultra Brothers, but I feel like there's a really good story in there, as well as a kind of a reunion between a lot of Ultraman actors. But anyways, oh god, let's see. Now, I want to know, when it comes to this new Gamera movie, what are you hoping to see in this in Gamera's cinematic return?
Well, it's the same thing what I wanted in the Toho Godzilla stuff, is that, keep the character design close to what we had, and, I would not mind some new villains. And the other thing is that, obviously we're going to need a reboot of Gamera. This is going to be a reboot film. No doubt in my mind that this is not going to be a sequel to the Heisei series. What this is probably going to be is a complete new continuity. It's not like with the Godzilla films where the standing point, the jump-off point is the 1954 film, no matter what continuity it is.
Uh-huh.
With Gamera, they could, it's for the past 2 continuities, it's been reboots of them without even acknowledging the other films. I would be shocked if, this followed the, Gamera the Brave, or the original Gamera film.
With me, yes, I would love to see at least Gamera be kept as Gamera. And before I move on, I really want to know, what is your opinion on the tortoise Gamera seen at the beginning of Gamera the Brave?
It doesn't look bad, but it's not it's not like a Gamera design that's my first go-to idea.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you say, does it look like Gamera when you mentioned how whatever design you just wanted to look like Gamera? If they came out with that, what would your reaction be? Would you be like, that is Gamera, or not?
Nah, well, like I said, it looks like Gamera, and it has a very Gamera feel to it, but that's not the design I would jump to, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I would jump to something like the Heisei Gamera design.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the Gamera, Gamera 3 design. That's my favorite.
Uh-huh. Funny enough, I feel like I'm one of the only people on the internet who likes Tortoise Gamera. But
I don't hate it, man. I don't... It's just not my go-to thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I I would like to see, Gamera still be Gamera. I want him to be a turtle, walks primarily on two legs, have two fangs on his jaw, and can fly and breathe fire or whatever. Uh, when it comes to, however, how they write him, I feel like with Gamera, he's much, you can, he's not a character where it's like, you have to, like you mentioned, he doesn't have a 54, or like, he doesn't have like, some version of, you can go back to, because there's been very few interpretations of Gamera. I mean, the Heisei series drastically changed. Both the Heisei and Millennium incarnations are drastically different from their Showa counterpart. So I feel like in terms of messing with the canon or the mythology of Gamera, I feel like you can really play loosely with that. And as long as he remains to be a force of good, or at least he's fighting to protect something, I would be okay with that. As for monsters, I feel like with Gamera, he has such like a wide range of very strange and bizarre monsters that have been seen since the Showa era. I would like to see them bring them back and see how they would look like in this, like, in a brand new century.
I wouldn't mind that either, and I'll tell you right now, Guiron should be first in line for that.
Yes. I love Guiron. He's perhaps my favorite kaiju of the whole Gamera series, not counting the main monster himself. With Guiron, it's like, I don't know, it's like he's a monster with a knife for a head. How can you go wrong with that?
Yeah. He's my favorite of the show. Iris is my favorite, Gamera villain.
Uh-huh.
Obvious. That thing was, for obvious reasons, why Iris is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, Guiron should be in front of that line. Maybe you could do a better version of Virus.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sad part is, the idea of Virus is a cool one.
Mm-hmm.
An alien race that, they're all the same creature. That's been done before. You've had that with the Zerg in StarCraft, the StarCraft games. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the whole hive mind thing's been done with a lot of alien races. It could have worked here, but you made it so fucking confusing and stupid.
Did you ever read the Dark Horse miniseries?
No, I haven't.
Okay. As I mentioned in my review, which you can also see on this channel, plug, Dylan and I, we mentioned how with Virus, he was not an alien in that series. So it's supposedly in the Heisei continuity, Virus is an experiment, like genetically created monster made by like a scientist using the DNA of Gauss from the first movie. And Virus has these like very strong telepathic abilities that this creature, the experiment, is able to take control of its creator and use it to gain enough power to become like the dominant creature of the Earth. And well, it's while it's again very drastically different. I wouldn't mind if they changed an origin that drastically with any of Gamera's foes. I mean, they're all so bizarre that I would love to see the writers play around with their imaginations to see what sort of weird things they would come up with, something like Jiger or Gauss or whatever.
I actually had an idea for Jiger, Gamera, Gauss, and what's the
Zegra?
other one? No, Barugun.
Oh, okay.
I had an idea of connecting them all together.
Uh-huh.
Of, how Gamera and Iris were considered like the North and South Guardians?
Yeah.
I had the idea of making the North, South, East, and West Guardians. They were the 4 original Guardian monsters, but somewhere down the road in the past, Jiger, Gauss, and Barugun just lost their shit and went overboard, and Gamera was the only one that remained pure.
Uh-huh.
So I want, you can do something. I think there's a whole playground with the Gamera monsters you can do. It's not like with Godzilla where there's a set idea for all of them. Mm-hmm. With Gamera monsters, I think it's a total playground of what you can do with that kind of history, and you can make it science fiction or you can make it mythology.
Yeah, definitely. Or you can play around with the two, where maybe it's like science fiction and their backstories may have inspired a sort of mythology for this new world. If you're gonna when you do show who these introduce these monsters, please explain where they came from. Unlike with Gamera the Brave, where you're like, oh yep, this is a world. This is like yep that's Zeta's. He shows up out of nowhere to eat boats and whatever. I mean, I really like to have know where these monsters came from, as opposed to just dropping a monster in there for the sake of having a second monster to fight in the third act.
Yeah, that's another thing you got to look at, is that I'm totally fine with a world that acknowledges that kaijus are in this universe and Gamera's
right.
just another monster, but explain it. Say that kaijus are a part of our lives. We just have to deal with it, and.
Because that seemed to be the case at the beginning of Gamera the Brave, where it's like, yep, that's Gamera, and he's fighting 3 gals. But then it seems like they make it seem so as it like there were no monsters ever since the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with Ultraman, that's a perfect example of, yes, this is a universe where we have giant monsters from Earth and space constantly attacking Japan, only Japan for some reason. But yeah, I would like to have like a universe where they explain where these creatures come from. And let's see, what was the third thing you mentioned? Where it's like you were talking about what Gamera wanted to look like, the kind of story and the kind of monsters.
Yeah, I think that's all I really had. The other thing I want to have actually in here is keep to the core of what Gamera is. We talked about this earlier, but I want to go. The thing is like, obviously, like I said, there's a playground for all the other monsters. Keep Gamera the way he is. I mean, you can obviously have him be like the Heisei Gamera, where he's a little, he doesn't care about collateral damage, as long as kids are safe. I think you can do something like that, where you can make him either... Hell, I would be totally fine if this Gamera came from space.
Interesting.
I mean, again, we could, as long as you keep to what he is, like, you could say Atlanteans were aliens that just came to colonize Earth, and then oops, something happened.
Or just go with the simple, well, you could go with the whole like prehistoric monster from a bygone era, but I think Toho or Legendary Pictures beat you to the punch right there.
Yeah, although admittedly, you can't help but look at the the 2014 Godzilla film and go,
da 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 da.
Well, exactly. Like, you can't help but think, you guys just watched Guardian of the Universe to get this idea, didn't you?
Da dun da dun. I was thinking. I had that song in my head when I first saw the ending to Godzilla 14 in the theaters.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. Of course, I had that the whole time.
It's actually kind of funny. Like, the second time I watched the Godzilla movie, well, actually, no, the third time, because I had it at home. So what I did was I put on the soundtrack to Gamera Guardian of the Universe when the Godzilla and the Mudos were fighting. And I was like, oh my god, it works!
I would love to see a fan edit of that. Just like put the whole score in that movie. But I did want to say I do have somebody in mind as to who would direct this movie, and I would love it if they had Shinpei Hayashida direct the movie. Now, for those of you who don't know, he is the director of the fan film Gamera 4 Truth, as well as the 2 giant monster movies, Deep Sea Monster Raigo versus Battleship Yamato, and its sequel, sort of, Deep Sea Monster Raiga. And I made reviews for both Raigo and Raiga, you are free to watch in case you were not aware of these independent monster movies from the dark era of Godzilla's history, or like from between 2004 and 2014. And this is a person who I feel like he really knows how to deal with making movies on a low budget and still making them look great. I mean, sure, Raigo had a very low quality CGI, but I feel like in terms of practical effects, he really that's where his strong suit is. And even so, I loved the story in Raigo versus Battleship Yamato, and I feel like he can capture some of that magic that that kind of like that kaiju magic that you had in like say like the Showa era, some of like that Showa era wackiness, while at the same time having some really touching dramatic scenes from like say like the Heisei Godzilla and Gamera movies. And so yeah, I feel like I would like to see this guy just like Kadokawa just pick this guy up and take it, use him to make an official Gamera movie.
I would be totally fine with that. I've seen his Gamera fan film. It's fantastic, and I would be totally fine with. 'Cause here's the thing, I kind of notice a trend with the Kadokawa and Dai with how they treat Gamera as opposed to Toho and Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little more loose with their where they go with the rights. Because obviously you said that they had Virus in the comic book. We did in the Heisei comic, the Dark Horse Godzilla comics. They had to make their own villains for Godzilla.
Yeah. It's not like they try to change the appearance in order to get away with calling it Virus. No, that was in terms of that was Virus and Zigra. Virus and Zigra, they looked exactly how they looked like in the Showa era, disappointingly enough, because I kind of was hoping for a redesign. But either way, it's like, yep, that's them. There's that banana-looking squid, and there's that blue goblin shark,
which is useless on land.
So with you mentioned you saw Gamera 4. Did you happen to see a clip where random clips of Gamera 4, where it's like it seemed to have come from a Japanese talk show?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I saw. That's how I saw it as well. Where did you see that footage?
YouTube.
Oh, really? That was uploaded on YouTube?
Yeah, I would imagine it being taken down by now.
Oh, did you save it? Please tell me you saved it.
No.
Fuck. I managed to see that footage at an LA event where they screened Godzilla vs. Biollante, and they had the late Koichi Kawakita there at a Q&A panel afterwards. And my cousin and I, we attended it there, and from there we before they had the panel, they showcased a lot of footage from independent monster movies, like Daimajin, what was it called? Like Daimajin Return, not Return of Daimajin, but it was like a Daimajin movie set in the present day, Atragon 2, Matango 2, Gehara, Gamera 4, and even this independent film called God of Clay. And yeah, apparently that's the only way Shinbei Hayashida is able to share footage of Gamera 4 was through, like this, he legally cannot share that footage with anyone because it's a copyrighted character, but he's able to legally get away with it by showing footage that was showcased in that talk show that he was in like years ago when he first made the movie. And I saw that same footage for a second time at G-Fest with Bill and Dylan, aka Zazubar and Super DM64. But man, I would love to just have that footage in my hands. Had I seen that footage on YouTube, I would have directly gone to my YouTube downloader and just get it. It'd be like, look, fellas, it exists. The holy grail of kaiju movies. It's real.
And to which Bill and Dylan would be like, "Oh, would you look at that?"
Oh, that thing that we saw already. How quaint. It's kind of funny. I don't mean to go on a tangent here with Gamera 4, but don't you think it's kind of funny how we live in a world where almost anything can be leaked onto the internet nowadays, and yet Gamera 4 in its entirety, or even some portion of Gamera 4 still hasn't been leaked outside of that one thing you saw on YouTube?
Yeah, that and Godzilla versus the Wolfman.
Yeah, although I hear the people who are putting together an independent documentary called Kaiju Gaiden, it's a documentary that they made. They ran a successful Kickstarter last year, where they're putting together a documentary showcasing independent independent kaiju films that not many people know, such as the previously mentioned Gamera 4, Raiga, Gahara, what was it, Zella, Monster Martial Law, Matango 2, and all that other stuff, good stuff. And where was I going with this? I don't know. But yeah, hopefully they can cover that. Oh yeah, now I remember. Those people, they are I believe the people behind that documentary, they're good friends with the director of Wolfman, Legendary Beast Wolfman vs. Godzilla, and they're kind of in talks with Toho into releasing some form of a Blu-ray for that fan film.
Cool.
Yeah. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about before we head out, let's give a hypothetical situation where, let's say this movie does not come to pass. How do you think Kadokawa would celebrate or acknowledge the 50th anniversary of Gamera, if not through a new film?
TV special?
Could be, yeah. Maybe they put together, like, they make something like Gahara and make like a 20-minute television special to fill up like a half-hour block.
Yeah. Or surprise us all with a Godzilla vs. Gamera movie TV special.
Yeah. What I think is, at this point, I don't think they would be able to make a Gamera animated series or a television series, because it feels very late in the game, whereas with a movie, you can make a movie within like the span of a couple of months, or like in a span of a year at least.
Yeah.
With this, let's see, maybe they might make a manga, because there has been I think 1 or 2 Gamera mangas in the past, that has never come to America, nor I don't think they have ever been translated by the fan base before. Let's see, so maybe a manga, a TV special.
Or a DVD collection.
Oh yeah, maybe like the definitive Gamera box set, like what Toho did with last year, that only came out in Japan, sadly. I could see them still making new figures for like SH Monster Arts, because at this point I think the Rebel Tech line, they're pretty much done making figures for that. I'm hoping they'll make a Gamera 3 figure monster figure art or monster arts, because that's my favorite Gamera design. Let's see. I think, sadly, worst case scenario, maybe all they'll do is just make a Gamera app for the Apple Store. Because, are you familiar with the Mega Man franchise?
Yeah.
I think it was last year or the year before where it was Gamera. It was Mega Man's like 30th anniversary. I think it was Mega Man's like 25th anniversary, I believe, and Capcom did nothing. They had a couple games planned, but they canceled all those Mega Man games, and all they had was an iPhone game that, from what I understand, was like very simplistic and not compelling at all whatsoever, and thus, due to the enormous negative reception from fans, that iPhone game was only released in Japan. Something like, as a worst case scenario, maybe all we'll get is like a Japanese exclusive game or app on the iPhone for Apple.
Yeah. This wouldn't happen to be the Mega Man versus Street Fighter game, would it?
Oh no, that was a fan-made game that was acknowledged by or endorsed by Capcom.
Ah.
Yeah, the game I'm thinking of, the game I was describing, I believe it was called Mega Man Crossover, where there was a new Mega Man, and he was able to obtain the powers of all the previous incarnations before him. And it was like a very simple game where it's like Mega Man, he automatically runs, and all you do is press one button to shoot and one button to jump. And it wasn't so, that was, I guess, the core mechanic of that gameplay. It's like, you ever played any of those generic iPhone or iPad games where it's like you just tap a button to to fight enemies, and then eventually you run out of energy, so then you can either wait a day or you spend real money to get more energy to do that same button pressing thing?
Few times.
Okay, yeah, basically the kind of stuff that was lampooned in South Park. Freemium, the episode Freemium isn't free. I think that was the case for that Mega Man crossover game. So yeah, that's, who knows. I want to say, like, because we haven't seen anything, heard any sort of news from the new Gamera movie, I want to say, like, expect the worst, ladies and gentlemen.
Unless they suddenly drop a trailer. Well, knowing our luck, dude, that tomorrow a trailer will show up.
Well, let us hope. So anyways, I believe we have come to the end of another edition of Kaiju's Corner. I have been your host, Andres Perez, aka KaijuNoir.
And I have been your lovely co-host. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm just
That is debatable.
I am just your co-host, Deadpoolzilla.
And until next time, everybody, take care.